Welcome in, everybody. This is the Final Watch podcast, Final Watch Veterans podcast. We got our CEO, President, Mr. Brandon, and myself, your VP of IT and Security. Today's topic is going to be economy and job markets of today in the United States. We've been, searching, and I've been, struggling trying to find a new job, and Brandon's been trying to find something to where it's pretty steady, but what we've come to find out is that companies no longer want to hire you based on your experience. They mostly want to hire you based on recommendations. I guess it's, somebody bringing you in from the outside or knowing somebody. You got to know somebody to get the position, honestly. It's getting ridiculous, but that's going to be our topic of today. Plus, we're going to be talking about the economy. A lot of people are saying that we're recovering in the economy today, but I mean, hell, I'm struggling just trying to make ends meet. Brandon, got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, this podcast is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do on here. First starting out doing these podcasts, guys, we've been I don't want to say it's been too scripted. This is just really going to be more having a conversation, talking about, the state of the world right now. And, when it comes to, working in this economy and then also trying to get a job in this economy and the struggles that many of us are going through. And this is really just going to be our 2 cents on it, like most people, not expecting to fix the problem. But I mean, the first step to fixing anything is acknowledging the fact that it's a problem. So that's what this conversation is really going to be about today. And then towards the end, we'll talk about the future of Final Watch veterans in regards to our nonprofit ideas and plans and what we want to try to do with it. First and foremost, we want to apologize for everybody that's been patiently waiting for their final roll calls. As you know, it's really just myself, Mark, Leah, and Adam that are living our own lives, trying to survive like the rest of us. And then whenever we do find the free time to actually conduct the final roll calls, it's been very difficult lately. And doing the roll calls isn't easy. Okay. For a lot of us, we want to, number one, we want to get it right. Number two, we're human beings. We're not robots. It's not going to be Amazon next day air. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. And I said this on a previous video that I actually just posted last night. And Mark, I was actually going to bring it up to you because as we continue to grow our social media, the number one thing that bigger accounts end up having issues with is copycats. And some of these copycats can be like, "Oh, I'll do a final roll call for you," but they're going to try to charge you something. Number one, and we've said it here many times, we will never charge for a final roll call ever. Period. It is immoral to do, number one. And number two, you're just a horrible human being to be taking advantage of somebody's loss, especially of their hero, their father, their uncle, their mother, their sister, etc. We will never do something like that. And I've asked in that video, and I'm going to ask here on this podcast, if you ever have anybody trying to say that we are, this is so and so from the Final Watch veterans, and it's not, myself or Mark or Leah or Adam, because those are the only people involved in this right now. You need to report them and notify us. And we need to get that, situation squashed. It hasn't happened yet, but in regards to as we continue to grow and continue to spread our message and honoring our nation's heroes and their legacies, I want to be proactive with it and forewarn people ahead of time, and also a warning to people that want to try to take advantage. You will be stopped, period. But yeah, other than that, guys, this is really just going to be us hanging out, having a conversation. Me and Mark talk a lot offline, and a lot of our conversations are actually pretty good. And we're just like, why don't we ever record this? Why don't we ever actually have it back and forth? Because some of the stuff we talk about, a lot of people can relate to, and it's a good conversation. So, Mark, let's get into it, man.
Yeah, so I was doing some research, and US Bank had put out a post out there about job markets that the job market isn't collapsing, but it's getting harder to get hired on. One of the biggest misconceptions is that, low unemployment rates mean jobs are getting easier to find, which, I mean, that's something that I've actually have some experience knowing that it's not easy. Today's labor market is often described as a low hire, low fire economy companies that aren't laying off the massive numbers of people, but they're also hiring much more cautiously than they did a few years ago. So ever since the pandemic, a lot of companies have changed the way that they hire. What a lot of job seekers are experiencing is that more applications are opening. There's more applications per opening on job sites, longer hiring timelines there, which takes longer for people to review your application, multiple interview rounds that you get instead of just 3 rounds of interviews. They're continuously, we're going out there and they want you to interview more frequently and get you more than just 3 rounds of interviews. There's more ghost jobs, which that means that the company posts, but they don't actively fill positions. There's a lot of job, what do you call them? Like job career centers or sites like Indeed. LinkedIn is one of them too. Monsters is a big job career site that has been active for many years, but now I've noticed that Monsters is more robot based. So they got a lot of bots on there posting ghost applications just to get people to go on their site. Employers are also they're extremely selective with who they want to hire too. So it's not based just on your experience. Now it's based on who you know, who wants to hire you, and it's more, they want it more personable, is what I've noticed. I have a lot of experience in different fields, and I'm sure Brandon does too, but it's more of who you know instead of what you know now.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, man, I mean, for many of you that know, I was in the Marine Corps for 10 years. So I've had experience leading and mentoring and building people up and excelling in their jobs and their careers in the military. Outside of the military, it's really been, a double-edged sword because when an employer looks at a service member that has done more than 4 years, I myself did 10. Honestly, I think the longer you serve for, I think most veterans, and I can be blunt when I say this, I could be wrong when I say this. Uh, I feel like the longer that you serve in uniform, the harder it could be to adjust, I guess, to the way of doing things in a civilian type role. And for most employers, unfortunately, when they see Marine, at least this has been my experience with my applications, when they see Marine on a resume, most employers envision that movie Full Metal Jacket, and it's like, do we really want to hire this guy? He could be, going off the wall if we see something wrong or something like that. Or, some employers, and I've had this experience too, we'll see leadership, we'll see discipline, we'll see command and control. They'll see somebody that can actually get the job done and get a job done right and utilizing the resources within his team and his company to not only get the job done, but get the, tasks ready for the next day, getting stuff lined out and ready to go. But in regards to like a lot of the job searching, and I actually just Googled something real quick and I just said, is AI hurting job opportunities right now? AI, personal opinion first before I get into what Google said, AI is a tool that is constantly evolving in today's world. Honestly, it's a more effective way of completing simple tasks. But I feel like as it continues to grow and develop, it's going to start being able to do a lot more complex, which can hurt opportunities for jobs in the future. And according to Google, for what AI is currently altering the job markets, it's primarily slowing down entry level higher, positions, like entry level and early career. So like your basic data entry for a company, they're getting AI to do that, and it's really unfortunate because a lot of the other companies that want, like say if they're hiring a supervisor or a manager, they want you to have X amount of years experience, say in data entry. Well, how the hell are you supposed to get that experience if AI is already doing it? So it can feel very defeating. But what are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah. Man, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts, and he was talking about that how AI is getting smarter by the minute. So AI has its own brain, like it's its own development. It's thinking on its own. It's advancing on its own without anybody having to program it, and that's what's hurting the economy too. And people just they don't judge the economy by GDP. They judge the economy by what happens when they swipe their debit card, and that's what's hurting the job market right now is because, people aren't making enough money. They're not able to make ends meet. It's harder to buy groceries. It's harder for their housing. I mean, I could attest to housing myself. My mortgage went up $500 just because the market or the tax bracket went up higher in our area because of new schools, new business development in the area. Taxes ended up going up $500 a month more than what they were last year. Insurance keeps going up. Insurance to me I mean, to be honest with you, man, I haven't used insurance in the 10 years that I've lived here, and it goes up every year. It's a scam to me. I don't see no return on investment with insurance. Utilities keep going up. Fuel, gas prices are up and all that is hurting. But you know what? These companies want to move towards AI, or they want to move towards like self checkout. They stop providing jobs for people. Even security, I've noticed. I've been in security for, man, 17 years now. I've owned my company since 2024. I've lost contracts because AI is starting to take over. They're having video monitoring centers that are coming up that are AI operated. And I've noticed that with everything coming out and AI being able to control that, it can communicate with CAD systems, which is a system that we use to report to the police or to EMS if something's going on. We don't have those jobs anymore. All that's being electronic, all that's being done through computers now. And that's what's killing the economy, to be honest with you.
That, and as much as we want to keep trying to blame AI too, I mean, current state of affairs, this whole mess in the Middle East with Iran, which we don't normally get into politics on our platforms or anything else, but it's important to look at the global impact that these military operations and what's going on in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz has. The biggest thing that bothers me about the whole ordeal is how the Strait of Hormuz, sends out, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, I'm pretty sure you're looking it up, sends out about like 20% of the global supply of oil. At least
Yep.
that's what I'm assuming.
20 to 35.
20 to 35%. Okay. But does the United States get any of that oil? That's my number
Far
one.
as what I'm seeing is it's going to other countries.
That's my number one thing, because it's like we're being told that that oil isn't coming to us.
So
So
it says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
no, go
but it
ahead.
says China is primary buyer of Iran's oil, accounting for roughly 90% of its total crude exports. The remaining portions are distributed among few other nations, predominantly Syria, the United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. The United States is in control of Venezuela oil, which will be contributed throughout the South American states to Central American states.
Okay.
So looks like North America is not getting any of that oil.
Yet our gas prices are going up. So, to my understanding, and guys, we are not the most educated about this. We're not. We're everyday folk dealing with what you're dealing with. So, to my understanding, it's the oil and gas like deal, like in regards to what is it called, Mark? Where all the oil and gas like companies are under this certain umbrella. What I'm trying to talk about? OPEC.
OPEC, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm
So
reading. Yeah, I just saw it. It says McKinsey Oil is part of the OPEC industry.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so OPEC, to my understanding, is basically what controls the oil production within the world. And to my understanding, because of the whole Straits of Hormuz issue and the blockading of oil, OPEC is what's pushing the setting of the oil and gas prices to the companies, because ultimately they control the supply and demand. which, I mean, there are non-OPEC members like Russia. They're not a part of OPEC, and now Saudi Arabia is not a part of it. They backed out because, to my understanding, OPEC is going to be, it's kind of like the mob boss. I mean, let's be real about this. They're the ones that are going to determine how much oil is going to flow and control when you guys are able to drill and everything else. So as much as it's a pain in the ass for us, to pay at the pump and everything else, and I'm sure we all saw those videos where they're changing the formula even in gas with the ethanol percentage, and how they're actually putting labels on the pumps, especially if you're pumping like E85 or 87, the lower grades, the cheap gas that we all put in our vehicles. Because of the ethanol change, you can't drive like a 2001 or older vehicle while on that gas. You have to pay for like the premium that has the less ethanol base. Otherwise, you're
Mhm.
gonna destroy your engine.
Yep.
So, and
Even with mine, I got a 2012 Camaro, brother, and I can't drive on anything less than 89, you know? And that's just it hurts because every time I go to pump gas in the car, it's usually about $60, to fill up every time. So that's why I don't even drive that car anymore.
yeah, and I mean, just looking back at the like Obama, era, and pushing, green energy and alternative fuel sources and everything else, which, I mean, for all my rednecks out there and people that live in Texas and even up here in the Pacific Northwest, we love the work of Taylor Sheridan's shows with Yellowstone, and especially Landman, which Landman, I think, hits the nail on the fucking head when it comes to the reality of oil and gas and how dependent we really are on it. And the sad reality is we're going to run out of it before we find a solution to replace it. And, it's some of the stuff in there is funny. It's added in for, comedic relief, but there's also a lot of truth that's being said in those shows. And, it's kind of, like modern day westerns, kind of bringing back that grit of what it's like to be an American, a real American, and just, I personally, I hate the saying picking up by your bootstraps, but, just manning up, womaning up, and getting shit done, period. And,
And
like, go ahead, Mark.
no, I was gonna say, I was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan and Billy Bob Thornton. He was interviewing him about the show Landman before he came out with it. And Billy Bob Thornton said he studied 2 years with people that are in the oil and gas industry in Midland to be able to make that show happen. So he helped write some of the scripts. He did some improvisation, some improv on the show from what he was talking about. And he said that, he wanted it to be as real as possible. So that's why he studied so much on that show to be able to bring out the realism of the economy and how oil and gas impacts us today, you know.
Well, I mean, the reality is everything that we have in our house, the house we live in, everything that we consume is delivered by a truck, period.
Hmm.
It is moved with oil and gas, diesel. It's like everything depends on it, which is why, oil and gas affects everything. It affects the cost of our food, our goods. And I saw something the other day where, and this is true, and I can even say it myself. So if you guys don't know, me and Mark are also TikTok Shop affiliates, like many other creators out there. And like many creators out there, a lot of us aren't really making sales like we were a year ago. Really, if you look at the times, because of this whole ordeal that happened with Iran and all the uncertainty in the economy, a lot of people are pinching their wallets right now. They're pinching pennies because they can't afford to, buy the latest electronic or buy the latest attention gainer, it's impulse buying. That's what it is. It is impulse buying with TikTok Shop, which again, I'm not trying to justify for, taking advantage of people or anything like that, by making a catchy video. I mean, advertisements everywhere. You Google something, there's going to be a Google ad for it on your Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Advertisements just part of our lives. If anything, we're playing into it a little bit to see if we can get a piece of the pie compared to a lot of these major manufacturers. But the point I'm trying to make with this is a lot of people aren't spending their money on, novelty items anymore. They're not spending money on going to concerts or hell, I was at a fireworks stand the other day. And the only reason why I stopped by is because the guy that was running the stand was a Vietnam Marine Corps veteran. Definitely had a lot to tell for sure. But I'll be honest, I bought a couple fountains from him because I want to have a little 4th of July with my family. And just the prices on fireworks were for ridiculous for like a single pack of like sparklers. It comes with like maybe like 20 of them in there.
Mhm.
$8. I remember when those cost like a buck.
You
Eight
know,
bucks.
a thousand roll of black cats that used to cost $10 was $26.
And let's be real about fireworks, okay? It's more fun. It's more for the kids, okay? Because a lot of kids love the colors and everything else. I love fireworks growing up as a kid too. But as an adult, you're literally taking a $20 bill. Let's just use that for an example and burning it. That's literally all a firework is. You're burning money for entertainment. And for a lot of veterans out there have PTSD episodes because of, especially mortar shells and stuff. But I was his only customer, and that was at like 2 o'clock yesterday. And his shelves were stacked. But like just seeing like the prices, and they have these big old combo packs, $300, $500. I'm like, who the fuck's gonna spend that kind of money on that stuff right now? I mean, I understand it's monumental if you really think about it. 250 years we've been a country. 250 fucking years. Large scale or, wide scale of that, like looking across the globe, we are still an infant fucking country amongst the world. I mean, we were founded based on revolution and being rebels against the empire of Great Britain. I mean, it should be something that should be celebrated, but at the same time, we it's impossible to ignore the cost of everything. And
Mhm.
I think I read somewhere the other day, Mark, where I think only like 1/3 of Americans even have like $400 like saved up for an emergency. Only 1/3. Like, that's fucking concerning if you really think about it. And I mean, Mark, Google this for me. What is considered middle class now in the United States?
Let me check on that for you.
What's Joe Rogan's buddy he has in the booth there that looks everything up for him?
Jesse.
Jesse. Hey, Jesse, Google this for me. You'll be my Jesse.
So right now in the US, the middle class is generally defined as a household earning between 55,820 and 167,460 annually.
So
It
that
says the metric it says the metric is based on the benchmark set by the Pew Research Center, which classifies middle class as a household making between two-thirds and double the nation's median income.
so middle class is $100,000 worth. Like that's
Yeah,
the window.
yeah. That doesn't make sense.
Who the fuck makes over $100,000 a year? Not many people.
So yeah, middle class household income, two-thirds, or two times the median in the US household income. 55,000 to 75,000 is now considered lower middle class. 125,000 to 165,000 per year is typically three-person household in 2026. So various states, it depends on the economy, but like here in Houston, it's anywhere from 76,000 to 129,000 is considered middle class.
So to put this in perspective, and this isn't counting, whether or not you get any kind of government assistance or any kind of government benefits, especially if you're a veteran, like not counting VA or Social Security, none of that. So when I was living in California after I got out of the Marine Corps, I got a job making $65,000 a year as a transportation manager. This is back in 2020. $65,000 as a manager. And that's considered, back then in 2020, making 65, like 65 to 75 was like the average for like a manager. And that was really considered middle class then. So now it's lower middle class in 6 years, or let's just call it 5 years.
Yeah. And back in 2019, I was making 75,000 and that was considered middle class.
Yeah.
Now it's considered now it's
Low middle.
considered the low middle. So, about 46 to 55% of Americans currently have enough savings to cover at least 3 months of expenses, depending on the survey used in the last 2 years. The Federal Reserve reports that 55% of U.S. adults had a 3 months emergency savings in 2025. However, at the beginning of 2026, there were found to be lower numbers, only 46% that could cover a 3 months of expenses. So about 24% of Americans have no emergency savings at all. Around 1 in 3 Americans have more credit card debt than savings, and roughly 37% cannot afford to handle a $400 emergency expense.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I was
But
saying.
but yet economy seems to be booming, right?
Not booming for us. I mean,
Exactly.
and I saw something the other day, it's like people aren't buying as much anymore. We got to consider lowering prices. It's like, and this is coming from like, Amazon, Walmart, Target, like the big retail stores, the ones that we normally go to every day. And people are, not buying like the hot summer items that they normally would, like new lawn chair equipment, new patio furniture, like in like water slides and pools for kids, people aren't buying that shit because of how much inflation's affected everything. Like, I mean, there's still going to be deals in stores that you're going to see, but it feels like it's few and far between what it used to be, and it's only
And the
been. Go
the
ahead.
reason that's happening is because of inflation. Raised food prices, faster growing economy, or faster growing, what do you call it? Citizens. There's more kids being born, so people got to afford food, and food prices are jumping up because of supply and demand. You know, it's just it's crazy because you're not making enough wages to be able to purchase the essentials. Food, fuel, labor shortages, higher packaging and farming costs. I mean, there's farmers that aren't able to farm right now because they're saying that there's not enough meat to go around to feed all the Americans, and to feed anybody that's in the states. Even though inflation has slowed down a bit, prices usually don't go back down until 2 years from then.
Well, and another thing too, just to not to argue your point about more people being born, but I mean, according to this statistic that I found off of Google, the total fertility rate in the U.S. Has dropped to like 2.1%, which equates to 710,000 fewer children are born annually compared to the nation's peak, which was back in 2007.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, go back to COVID, right? So maybe now that's the fact, but go back to COVID. People were making
Yeah.
babies,
Yeah.
and
No,
those
hey,
babies are now 4 or
I
5 years old,
I agree. I agree.
and
Trust me.
that's
Trust me.
that's where the food's coming in.
I have a COVID baby, okay? I
Yeah.
mean, let's be honest, guys. If you had a baby during COVID, do me a favor, drop it in the comment. Let's see. We can have our own little poll. But honestly, during that time, and I feel like COVID's been beaten to death, but for me, it always felt like a global reset to how things operate and the way things are done here in the world that we live in. I mean, let's be real. Freaking COVID fucked a lot of things up. It fucked a lot of us up. A lot of people have from COVID because they've been, they were, think about it, we were imprisoned in our own homes. And a lot of domestic violence went up during that time too, because, you're not normally amongst your spouse or your family that many hours in a day. It kind of raises like a lot of, eyebrows, and kind of like a reality of like, damn, are you sure you married the right one? Because honestly, I think that was like the ultimate test for a lot of couples.
Yeah.
I don't know. Thankfully, me and my wife survived it, and we're still together 16 years. But yeah, it's COVID was just a rough time, and getting into like the how you were saying earlier, like the credit card debt. is so high, especially now. I think a lot of that happened during COVID too, because a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people
Yeah.
weren't able to pay the bills, so they were having to put everything on credit to feed themselves and shelter themselves. And with interest rates just being out of fucking control, like, I mean, shit, look at the car market. It still hasn't calmed down since COVID.